Why don't ants ever get sick? Because they have antibodies. Welcome to Hard Times Strong Men, Dadisode 1. Hey everybody, welcome back. Like I said, this is Dadisode 1, the Dad episodes, the episodes of Dad. We had the idea that, while we're teaching things, we need to also take into account that sometimes maybe people didn't learn the things that they probably should have when they were growing up by no fault of their own or by no fault of their dad. We're here to teach you guys no matter what, and these are going to be mainly touching on the things that, like I said, you probably should have learned when you were younger, like changing a tire, how to tie a tie, tying knots, the simple things, the dude stuff. But this doesn't apply to just guys. This can also apply to girls. We are an equal opportunity teacher, and we are here to do just that. Today we're going to be discussing how to change a flat tire. So here we go. Number one, when you get a flat tire, you'll know, your car is going to shake like crazy. You're going to hear a flopping sound, and that's the sound of the rubber being destroyed as you're driving down the road. It may be easier. You may come out one day and see that your tire is flat. So let's get into the steps. Once you identify that you have a flat, if you're driving, you need to find a safe place to pull over. So this is going to be solid ground. You don't want to pull over into some mush. Chances are it may not be the opportune place. You may not be pulling over to a parking lot. You may be on the side of the road where it's dirt. Either way, you'll want to be on a flat surface for this. You want to be on a mostly solid surface because you're going to be pushing up. You're going to be hoisting a 3,000 to 4,000 pound vehicle into the air on a piece of iron. You're going to want this to be stable. To keep your car from rolling, make sure you're on a flat surface. If you have to, chalk your tires. When I say this, I mean wedge something under the tire on the other side of where you're going to be working. So say you're working on the driver's side, front tire, back tire, doesn't matter. On the other side, jam a big rock underneath the front and rear of one of the tires. That way it prevents it from moving. From there, once you pull over, put on your hazard lights, throw on your parking brake. I can't emphasize this enough. Throw on your hazard lights. It is very, very dangerous to pull over on the side of the road, especially around here where people think that it is the Daytona 500 instead of, doing the speed limit and actually paying attention to what's going on around you. From there, you're going to check to make sure that you have everything. Honestly, you should do this way ahead of time, but say you just didn't know. You're going to want to check at the bare minimum that you have a jack, a wrench, and a spare tire. These three things are the bare minimum of what you need to have if you're changing a flat tire. If you're a little extra, you're going to have a road flare, you're going to have a flashlight, you're going to have gloves, a mat for kneeling down, you're going to have a poncho if it comes down to it, a tire gauge. But you probably also should have your owner's manual because there's a lot of useful information in there, like where exactly you need to put the jack when you jack it up. Because underneath your car, you don't want to put it up against, say, the skin of the door or some plastic, because all it's going to do is shear that off. You're going to want to put this right underneath the frame of the car because that's the sturdiest piece. Oftentimes, if you look under there, there's going to be a flat spot where the jack is going to make contact with the vehicle. Sometimes there's not. It kind of just depends on the design. Anyway, so once you check for materials and make sure you have what you need, you're going to start loosening the lug nuts. Everybody knows the old saying, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, right? Okay, that stands for, righty-tighty, clockwise, lefty-loosey, counterclockwise. So you're going to want to loosen these lug nuts on the side with your wrench, and it should get to the point of where you should be able to turn it by hand. It may be a little difficult because, the tire may be out of balance. At this point, it hasn't been jacked up off the ground, so you may be okay. Above all things, be careful. Once they're loose, you're going to want to have the jack in place, firmly against the ground. Start jacking it up until you can actually see where it's going to make contact underneath there. Ensure that it's going to be contacting the vehicle in the right place. Don't do it in the wrong place. You're going to mess up your car pretty bad if you do that. Make sure you're jacking it up in the right place. So once your shirt's in the right place, keep jacking that car up until the tire comes off the ground. Once it does, remove the lug nuts, pull the tire off. What I always do once I do that is to take it and lay it down and slide it up under the vehicle right next to the jack stand. That way, if the car slides somehow and falls down, it's not going to be just falling flat on your brake rotor and damaging the rotor. It'll fall on that tire, which is already messed up, and keep it suspended off the ground. That way you have another chance to put the jack all the way down and try again. Anyway, once you get the tire off, you're going to want to put the spare tire on the car. It's pretty easy to do. Most tires are 5 lug tires, which means you're going to look at your spare tire and there's going to be 5 holes, and on the car there's going to be 5 lugs for you to fit into the 5 holes that are on the spare tire. Once you slide that on there, take those lug nuts that you have and start twisting them, hand tightening them on. I recommend when you take the lug nuts off to go in a star pattern, and when you put them on, do the same way. Tighten one down, holding the tire into place, so it doesn't keep wobbling, because it'll balance on the top 1 or 2 lug nuts that are up there and just shift to where the bottom posts out. So what you want to do is just hold it into place very gently and then start tightening those lug nuts down. Go into star pattern until all 5 are on. You can then take your wrench and start tightening them down. Once you have the lug nuts into place, hand tightened, remove the old tire, set it aside to where it won't be in the way of the car coming down. Slowly lower the jack stand down to the point of where the tire actually touches the ground, and then you can't actually spin the tire by hand. There's enough resistance there. Go in with your wrench then and really crank down those lug nuts so the tire cannot come loose. Use gravity as a friend. Don't fight it. Push down when you're tightening them. Use gravity to your advantage. Once everything's secure, lower the jack stand completely, and from there you're just going to throw your jack stand in the back, your flat tire in the back, your wrench in the back, and continue on. So what happens if you can't get to your lug nuts when you initially start doing this? It's probably because you have a hubcap on there, and you're going to have to use your wrench, which usually has a flat end, to pry that off. That'll give you access to your lug nuts. So what happens if your spare's flat? Well, I recommend that you check with your insurance to see if they have roadside assistance and use that. So is there anything else you need to know? Not really. Those are the basics. Once you get that spare tire on there, if it's one of those donuts, you're going to want to take that to the shop immediately. I see far too often people driving around on that thing, and that is not safe. It's not good for your vehicle. That thing is only meant for speeds up to 55 miles an hour, and it's only meant to be on there for a couple of days at most. It's not to say that it can't be used longer, but I don't recommend it. And that's basically how you change a tire. It's very simple. Stay tuned for more of these little tips, little measures. We're going to be covering a lot of things. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been Hard Times, Strong Men, Dadisode 1. Bye, everybody.